Have you ever found yourself wondering, really wondering, if there's a truly optimized way to train young athletes, especially in a sport like, say, soccer?
Oh, absolutely. It's the kind of question that keeps coaches and sports scientists up at night.
Right. Imagine you're coaching a youth team, or maybe you're a player yourself, and you just want to know the absolute best path to getting faster, having more stamina, or, that explosive power.
It's this constant search, isn't it? This idea that we could somehow fine-tune training, make it really personal to each athlete's unique profile. That's often seen as the next big thing in performance enhancement.
And that is exactly what we're diving into today. We've got our hands on a really fascinating, pretty cutting-edge research study that tackles this head-on. It asks, does tailoring high-intensity interval training HIE to an athlete's specific physical profile actually work better than just using a more general approach?
Yeah, this study gives us some pretty clear answers, scientifically speaking. The article is called Comparing Individualized versus Non-Individualized Locomotor Profiling on High-Intensity Interval Training Adaptations in Soccer Players, a randomized parallel study.
Quite a title.
It is. It's by DongMing, DongMei and ZhiDa Huang. It was just published online September 1st, 2025 in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine, volume 24, pages 503 to 512. And if you want to find it, the DOI is 10.52082 JSSM.225.503.
Perfect. Okay, so let's unpack this. Our goal here is to give you quick but solid knowledge straight from this, well, pretty accessible academic paper.
Right. So first things first, maybe a quick refresher on HIT, high-intensity interval training. It's a really powerful method, especially in soccer, for improving quite a few key things.
Like what specifically?
Well, we're talking aerobic power, how well your body uses oxygen, anaerobic capacity, that's your energy for short, intense bursts without oxygen, and also neuromuscular capacity, basically how well your nerves and muscles work together for speed and strength.
So it's not just about jogging for miles. These are strategic, intense efforts. And they've been shown, right, to boost things like sprint speed, how high you can jump, overall endurance.
Right.
More so than just regular training.
Exactly. It provides that extra stimulus. And because it's so effective, it naturally leads to the next question. Can we make it even better? Can we individualize it?
The individualization piece.
Yeah, and a lot of recent focus has been on something called the Anaerobic Speed Reserve, or ASR. It's basically the difference between how fast an athlete can sprint flat out, that's their maximal sprint speed, or MSS,
Okay.
and their maximal aerobic speed, MAS, the fastest speed they can maintain aerobically. Think of ASR as their untapped speed potential.
Right, the gap between their steady pace and their absolute top speed.
Precisely. And the idea, the theory, is that you can use this ASR to categorize players. You might have speed types, endurance types, or maybe hybrid types in between. These are the locomotor profiles.
And the thinking is, if you know their profile, you can pick the best kind of HIET for them, like tailor it perfectly.
That's the theory. It sounds great, makes intuitive sense. But here's the thing, does it actually work better in the real world? There's been a lot of talk, but surprisingly few studies have directly compared an individualized HII approach against a non-individualized one, especially in a team sport like soccer where players already have different demands.
So this study is trying to fill that gap, moving from theory to actual evidence.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Okay, so how did they set it up? Who are the players involved?
They recruited 46 male youth soccer players. Average age was about 16 and a half. And they were quite specific, had to be 16 or 17, outfield players, good training attendance.
Any exclusions?
Yeah, they excluded anyone injured, goalkeepers, or players doing other, intense specific training programs outside the team. They wanted a relatively clean comparison.
Makes sense. And the study design?
It was a randomized controlled trial, so players were randomly assigned to different groups to minimize bias. You had your control group, they just did their normal soccer training.
Standard stuff.
Right. Then there were 3 experimental groups. All 3 did their regular soccer training, plus 2 extra HIIT sessions per week for 6 weeks.
Okay, so what was different about those 3 HIIT groups? That's the core of it, right?
Absolutely. So group 1 was the IITINed group, the individualized one. Here, based on their locomotor profile measured beforehand.
Using that ASR calculation.
Exactly. Based on their ASR, they were assigned to either long interval, HIIT, or repeated sprint training, RST. Endurance types did the long intervals, speed types did the sprints, and the hybrid players were sort of split between the two.
So really trying to match the training to the profile.
That was the goal. Then you had group 2, the IIT long group. Here, here, everyone did the long interval HIIT no matter their profile, just a standardized approach.
Okay, one size fits all for that group.
Pretty much. And group 3 was the RST group. Similarly, everyone in this group did repeated sprint training, again, regardless of their individual profile.
So you've got individualized, standardized long, and standardized sprint. A neat comparison.
A very neat comparison. It lets you isolate the effect of individualization versus just the type of HIIT itself.
What did those sessions actually look like, the HI long versus the RST?
Generally, they involved about 6 sets per session, twice a week. For HIIT long, the work intervals were longer, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, done at a pretty high intensity, like 95 to 100% of their maximal aerobic speed.
Okay, tough but sustainable for a bit.
Right, whereas RST was more about very short all-out efforts. Think 4 to 8 repetitions of a 30-meter maximal sprint with passive recovery in between, really pushing that top-end speed and power.
Got it. And how did they measure if any of this actually worked? What tests did they run before and after the 6 weeks?
They used a battery of tests. For leg power, they measured counter movement jump height, CMJ, using a validated mobile app, which is pretty cool tech.
Yeah, handy.
For speed, they did a 30-meter sprint test, again timed with an app, and calculated the maximal sprint speed, MSS, from the fastest segment.
And what about fatigue resistance, like repeating sprints?
Yep, they tested repeated sprintability, RSA. That involved 6 40-meter shuttle sprints, so back and forth, only 20 seconds rest between each. Brutal test.
Oof, yeah. Sounds tough. And aerobic fitness.
For that, they used a 5-minute running test. Basically, how far can you run flat out for 5 minutes? This gives an estimate of their maximal aerobic speed, MAS.
Okay, comprehensive testing. And just to be super clear on the individualized group, how do they actually define those endurance, hybrid, and speed profiles? Were there specific ASR numbers?
Yes, they calculated ASR again, MSS minus MAS for everyone.
Yeah.
Then they divided the players into 3 groups, or tertiles, based on these values. They had specific cutoff points, like for the HIIT group, an ASR below about 13.22 meters per second put you in the endurance category, for example. So it was a defined process.
Right, so structured way to apply the individualization.
Yeah.
Okay, drum roll time.
What do you know?
What were the results?
Well, first off, the good news. All the HIIT groups, the individualized one, the long interval one, and the sprint one, showed significant improvements in their aerobic, anaerobic, and neuromuscular abilities compared to the control group that just did regular training.
So bottom line, adding any of these HIA types works. It's better than just standard practice.
Definitely. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you compare the HIA groups against each other, the repeated sprint training, the RST group, it consistently came out on top for certain things.
Like what?
Superior improvements in neuromuscular capacity, so bigger gains in that vertical jump height, the CMJ, and also superior gains in anaerobic capacity, meaning better maximal sprint speed, MSS, a bigger increase in their anaerobic speed reserve, ASR, and better mean performance on that tough repeated sprint test, RSA.
Wow. So for raw speed, power, ability to repeat sprints, RST seemed to be the winner.
It really seemed to be the most potent stimulus for those qualities.
But I'm guessing it wasn't the best for everything. What about the aerobic side, the endurance?
Good question, and you're right. While RST dominated the speed power metrics, both the individualized group, HIIT, and the standardized long interval group, HIIT long, were more effective than RST at improving aerobic capacity.
Okay.
Yeah, they saw bigger improvements in the distance covered in that 5-minute run and in their estimated maximal aerobic speed, MAS. So different types of HI clearly target different systems more effectively.
Which makes sense. But now, the really crucial question. Did the individualized group, HIIT, do any better than the standardized long interval group, HIIT long? Did tailoring it actually add extra benefit?
And this is probably the headline finding: no. The study found no significant differences between the individualized HI group and the non-individualized long interval HI group across most of the measured outcomes.
Wow, so all that effort to tailor it based on the profile didn't seem to give them an edge over just doing the long intervals.
Not in this study, not based on these measures. It was effective, yes, better than control, but not significantly better than the standardized HI long protocol for most things.
That's really counterintuitive, isn't it? You'd expect personalization to be better.
You would think so. It certainly challenges some common assumptions.
And what about the players' starting profiles? Did being speedy or endurance-focused to begin with affect how much they improved?
That was interesting, too. The initial locomotor profile did seem to matter for improvements in maximal sprint speed, MSS, and ASR, but not so much for the jump height or repeated sprint ability. And kind of unexpectedly, the players who started with an endurance profile actually showed greater improvements in MSS and ASR compared to the hybrid and speed profiles.
Huh. So the endurance guys got faster, relatively speaking.
It seems so, at least in terms of the gains they made in those specific speed metrics.
Okay, lots to digest there. So let's boil it down. What does this all mean practically? For you, the listener, if you're a coach, an athlete, maybe even just interested in fitness.
Well, let's think about why RST might be so good for speed and power. Those all-out sprints. They place huge demands on the neuromuscular system, recruit lots of fast-twitch muscle fiber.
The explosive ones.
Exactly. It stimulates adaptations like getting more muscle units firing them faster, improving how quickly you can generate force. It's basically high-intensity strength training through sprinting.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And the long intervals. Why were they better for aerobic fitness?
Those longer work bouts, even though intense, really challenge the aerobic energy system. Your heart, your lungs, how well your muscles use oxygen, they drive cardiovascular improvements, maybe boost mitochondria, essentially making your body better at sustaining high-intensity effort over time.
Different pathways being stressed.
Precisely. Which leads us back to that individualization paradox. The study shows, yeah, individualized training worked compared to doing nothing extra, but it didn't beat a well-chosen standardized approach like HI long for aerobic gains or RST for anaerobic gains.
So the takeaway seems to be the type of HIIT you choose matters more.
That seems to be the crucial message here. For these young soccer players, choosing the right tool for the job sprint training for speed power, longer intervals for aerobic capacity appears more important for driving specific adaptations than meticulously tailoring the protocol based on their locomotor profile alone.
It's about matching the training method to the desired outcome.
Exactly. Now, we should acknowledge the study's limitations, as the authors do. Grouping players into just 3 broad profiles might be a bit crude. People respond differently to training anyway, and things like diet, sleep, recovery outside the sessions weren't tightly controlled. Plus, doing it across different teams might introduce slight variations.
Sure, no study is perfect, but the overall message seems pretty consistent within their findings.
I think so. The practical takeaway for coaches and athletes listening seems pretty clear. If your main goal is boosting speed, explosive power, and that ability to repeat high-intensity sprints, repeated sprint training, RST, looks like a very strong choice.
Okay, powerful stimulus for power.
And if the focus is more on improving aerobic endurance, being able to sustain high-intensity running for longer, then both the individualized approach and a standardized long-interval HIIT program are effective options. They both deliver on that front better than RST.
So maybe don't overthink the locomotor profiling too much. Focus on the goal. Pick the right type of HIIT.
That seems to be the most practical interpretation. Focus on the modality that best matches your specific performance goals. The added benefit of individualizing based solely on this ASR profile might not be as significant as previously thought, at least according to this research.
It's fascinating. This deep dive really suggests that sometimes maybe the most complex, tailored solution isn't automatically the best one. For these young players, the type of HIIT seems to be the bigger lever to pull than how it's individualized based on this specific profile. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often do we chase hyper-customization in other areas when maybe a well-chosen standard approach is just as good or even better?
It's a great thought to ponder. And if you are intrigued and want to get into all the nitty-gritty details, the stats, the specific protocols, we definitely encourage you to read the full article.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to remind you, that's comparing individualized versus non-individualized locomotor profiling on high-intensity interval training adaptations in soccer players. A randomized parallel study by Zhu, Song, and Huang in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine 2025. Check the DOI we mentioned earlier if you want to find it easily.
It's a worthwhile read if this topic interests you.
Definitely. And hey, to make sure you catch our next deep dive into fascinating research like this, please do follow the channel and maybe turn on those notifications. You won't want to miss it.